Hey, all right. Thanks for tuning in to The Prize. This is episode number 6. We've broken into new technologies here and have our special guest via Skype, Mr. Bill Lindsey of the band IMPALER, Twin Cities metal band, punk rock, shock rock. They've been around a long time here in the Twin Cities, and I've always really loved and admired Bill and what he does, the band, and just an all-around great guy. It was cool to catch up with him since we really haven't seen each other in these pandemic times. In fact, the last live music I saw before the shutdown was IMPALER Acoustic, and we'll talk about that event as well as the new record the band has managed to put together and put out during the past year, The Great Hereafter. New music from IMPALER, always a joy to see. And also we got a new video of them performing in a studio that we'll throw on at the end here. So thanks for checking out The Prize here. I'm excited to do this again, and I'm also going to involve a little bit more of the vinyl community and show off some records I picked up recently on my trip. I was in Omaha, Nebraska, and managed to go to a bunch of record shops there. So I'll show you my vinyl haul from this most recent trip, and then we'll be talking to Bill Lindsey from IMPALER here on The Prize. Hey, welcome to The Prize. You can find me online, Danny Sigelman, yours truly, Paper Sleeves on Instagram and Twitter, and also been contributing to the 1013 Reviews. 1013reviews.com is a really awesome website. We do a lot of music photography, interviews, reviews, music news. It's kind of like an online zine for all things music, so check us out on online and on Twitter and Instagram, and we hope to make more connections in the coming year, especially as music makes up. So thanks for hanging out with us, and check us out. Now back to The Prize. Pop Culture Exchange is one of the stores I checked out, and they sell like a lot of video games and comics and that kind of stuff, and they have like a nice sized bin of cool used vinyl, new stuff. Also made it to a place called the Brass Armadillo Antique Mall, which is bananas, and Ray Gun, recycled sounds, and vinyl cup records. So I'm going to show you what I got in Omaha, but I'm going to start with some new stuff that's shown up in the mail and that I've been digging, and that's been getting me through these crazy isolated times. The new record from Delvon Lamar Organ Trio. I just freaking love these guys. I've seen them perform at the Dakota in town a handful of times, and I believe this is essentially the second studio record, third record that he's put out since the first one since the last live at KEXP. So he's actually got a live record under his belt already, which is awesome. Picked up this also from Coal Mine Records. Amazing stuff Coal Mine's been putting out. I'm an addict, man. I get these emails, it's just like bam, bam, bam. I don't even remember ordering some of this stuff, and it shows up in the mail, and it just really makes my day. As did this compilation, which I got to listen to. This is colored vinyl, but I was listening to it while I was driving to Omaha, and it's just such beautiful stuff. Who knew, but Target sells John Coltrane Love Supreme records. This is the Translucent Black and Smoky Swirls edition. But Phoebe Bridgers I picked up, and then also a new Foo Fighters record from Electric Fetus, and this is like, I don't know, blue vinyl. Indie store edition kind of deal. I pre-ordered it a long time ago. I love the record. I listened to it on my road trip, and I think it's amazing stuff. I mean, it's cool that they do try new stuff. And okay, so I'm going to go through this as quick as I can. This is stuff from Omaha that I picked up. Here you see the Flow single, Daddy, backed with Mr. Invisible, and it's a DJ promo copy. Flow being a early jazz project by featuring Don Felder, his pre-Eagles stuff. Way better than Eagles, if you ask me. Okay, so also we got
Machine, One Guy Too Late, 45. Oh, I went to Half Price Books too. I think I didn't think I mentioned that before, but they got a great Half Price Books in Omaha. I decided not to buy the Dirty Dancing soundtracks, so they might still be in the bin if you need those. If you're in Omaha, Yardbirds 45. I'm not sure where I got that. Wadsworth Mansion. What's on tonight? Sussex. I would say Vinyl Cup Records probably my favorite spot that I was able to check out, and for one reason, everybody, the person working there was really awesome, super nice, friendly, and they also just kind of seem like they price stuff to move. You go to a lot of record stores, sometimes it seems like they're trying to get the collector's price or Discogs pricing. A lot of great stuff at Vinyl Cup, and they really were unloading a lot of like record store day stuff, overstock stuff, just kind of moving the stuff out. It looked like they were making room for new collections, and so like to mark stuff down that maybe they had extras of, I benefited, which is awesome. This Bob Dylan record from last year, The Rough and Rowdy Ways. I barely heard any of this, but so here's some weird stuff. Truck driving music, kind of country stuff. Your Giddy Up, Go, Dr. Demento compilation. I love Dr. Demento. I pretty much grew up listening to Dr. Demento religiously, and this is a vinyl record store day release. I really wish somebody was like rebroadcasting all the old Dr. Demento shows. How cool would somebody should do that. Connie Francis, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Staple Singers live, I think, or I don't know, whatever. I mean, it was $2. Awesome find. This is weird. I listened to a little bit of it on my phone, and check these dudes out. It seems like some solid butt rock. Blind Date. This was the coup. They put this record on for me at Vinyl Cup. It just sounded really different on the other side. It's very Christian metal. I mean, it's funny, but I don't know, during its lifetime. Okay, Underneath the Colors, In Excess, Sealed. Awesome. I don't remember this record very well. Like, I maybe have heard some of the songs, but I love In Excess. Here's an Animotion, the Obsession song. I love Picture 45s pretty much by, if it's reasonable, 99 cents. I mean, come on. Solid jam. And Stones. Any disco.
This band's called Straps from 1977. It's called Secret Admirer.
Max Roach and Art Blakey. Pretty much two of my all-time favorite drummers together. There's a lot of probably insane drum duels and that kind of thing. Jet, I can't remember what this was like, except for that I thought it was cool enough. Pretty much anytime I see something that I've never seen before, I check it out, and if it's like really cheesy and like I just love the 70s, 80s hard rock and metal, Montrose. Then this record is cool because I had just brought it up recently in a conversation when Eddie Van Halen died. This is the film The Wildlife, and Eddie Van Halen's solo joint on here. It's a song. It's this instrumental. He did the score for this movie. Like Andy Summers from The Police has a jam. Bananarama did the theme song. That was pretty fun tune. And then like Ron Wood and Charlie Sexton. So the Eddie Van Halen song is called Donut City years ago. Robert Palmer. Okay, Klaus Schultz. Keyboard instrumentals, as I would likely anticipate. This is some soundtrack. Body Love, just like a really sexy cover. And, 3 songs on, it's like long, synthy love. Never seen this before, but this is on Casablanca, so Kiss's label. I don't know if there's any correlation or relation to Kiss or I know nothing about Schloss, but it was McKendree Spring. Again, cheap, $4. So, like, I don't know, looks cool. I'm not totally familiar with the label. Or Tony Joe White. I don't off. Preservation Hall. Atlantic. I don't know. I don't know this record at all, but it's The Boss, 12-inch. I love like 12-inch remixes of really obvious 80s stuff. Okay, so again, the special guest this week I'm really excited to talk to. Had a great time catching up with my friend Bill Lindsey from Impaler, and I like where this is going, man. This is like my little outlet to whoever is still listening here. But spread the word about this podcast if you like it. I like to just kind of document what I do, and since a lot of it revolves around music and pop culture, I figure I'd share this with you because it's what I do this is what I'd be saying to my friends if I could be hanging out with them. This is a cool store, Pew Pew Pew. They had great stickers. Shout out later. Also, shout out to the Monster Club. Really cool bar and restaurant that has like all the monsters from every movie, mannequins and dolls and paintings and just right up my alley kind of weird shit. That check out the Monster Club. And I know Bill Lindsey here from Impaler would love this place. So with that, check out my interview here with Bill Lindsey. Shout out to everybody, and thanks for tuning in. And take it. Let's get Bill going here, and I'll come back and we'll wrap up. And hope you're all doing beautifully, loving life, enjoying what we have, and just having a good time with this. Stay tuned. There's going to be a video of Impaler at the end as well. So check it out. Thanks for checking out the prize.
This is probably, I kind of like my beer to taste like beer.
That's about as wild as you get, is the cream ale?
Yeah. Usually it's like PBR or, I like a lot of Mexican, German beers, like Warstein.
Oh, yeah.
I like Warstein or Dunkel, dark like beers. I like dark beers more in the winter time.
Well, we are in the winter time.
We are. Right in the middle of it.
So anyway, I was down the YouTube wormhole, and there was like a concert you guys did where there was like a fist fight in the audience, and and I think Dr. Corpse had to like jump out into the crowd and like break it up or something. Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, it was a couple of knuckleheads. They were drunk and belligerent, and they were like hassling people in the audience, and so it just escalated. The thing I hate about that YouTube footage, it just shows just a small fraction of what happened. It doesn't show all of the things they were doing, like slapping. Mo got slapped on the back of the head and shoved. When he was just standing up in the front listening to the music, and women were getting shoved around by these two. So we just took them and threw them out of the bar, really, is what happened. We jumped, we jumped on, we grabbed them, and we threw them out of the bar. And that was really the end of it. But they were real dipshits.
Nobody wants to piss off Dr. Corpse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't fuck with the doctor.
But those new videos you guys just posted were really cool. Is that kind of what? So what I wanted to definitely talk about is the new CD and like these new videos, and that's obviously a big part of what you've probably been doing during the past year in quarantine. And I wanted to mention, before all of this shit, the last live show I saw was Impaler.
Yeah, acoustic.
At the acoustic Impaler. That was awesome. What did you guys think of that?
Oh, it was fun. That was the first time we ever did that. We've never done an unplugged, acoustic session at all in any form. And so, it was really fun. We enjoyed it. I would definitely do one again. I had a good time. I thought that, the songs we chose translated well to the acoustic vibe, and it was just fun to do. but that was it's ironic that our last show before everything shut down was an acoustic show.
Yeah.
You think, you think our electric show would bring the fire and brimstone and plague down on.
Yeah, maybe.
It was the acoustic. It's the acoustic. It's when what you're not expecting. You see, that's
Well,
what.
maybe it foreshadowed the what things to come, because you'd have to be kind of like condensed anyway for the next 9 months or whatever.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
it's almost a year now. When was that? February?
yeah. That was about a year ago that we did that, or was it March? No, it was the first week in March.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So it's pretty close. It was the week before they shut everything down. So whatever that date was, I mean, it was like 4 days before they shut everything down.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because when they shut everything down, it was like right before St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you guys that gig. I helped book the bands for that trivia thing that Ryan was doing, and I was like wanting to put in. I wanted Impaler to be at the History Center. I just thought it'd be such a cool idea. Like, I think people that aren't necessarily metal fans don't really appreciate the scope of what Impaler is to Minnesota, and it's something I've always really made note of. Is like, I can't think of another band that's been around as long as Impaler has without really like ever stopping, like, a lot of bands like the Trashmen or whoever come and go, but like you've been nonstop since what, 82, 81?
Yeah. I guess Soul Asylum, they keep going on, and of course the Hipsters, the Mighty Mofos.
That's true.
There's a handful of us, but yeah, there's not a lot of bands that have been around as long, but there are. Yeah, we're like, I guess we're like kind of dinosaurs or something. I don't know.
Well, that's why I thought you belonged in a history museum.
That's right. Yeah, old fossils, right? That's what I say. That's what yeah, and I loved doing it. It was really fun. And we really
Yeah.
got a warm reception from people who probably have never seen Impaler before, because they just think, that we're gonna just be obnoxious, and which we are, but I mean, they probably not to the same extent as they thought we would be. So I think sometimes people are pleasantly surprised or taken back when they actually do experience us.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, first timers or people that might have been sitting on the fence about us and just hadn't checked it out. So I thought it was a great experience, and I
Yeah.
thank you for that. It was fun.
Yeah. No, I was so pumped. I was just like, a lot of the work I do in terms of that kind of stuff, I do for myself first. And if it's something I think is cool, then I figure out how to convince other people to let me do it. And in that case, that was a perfect example where I'm just like, these guys, because we were presenting music outside all summer, and that's more of like a kids thing. But I knew this would be like more of a music heads, people that were like really into the scene, and whether they're fans of Impaler or not, they're going to appreciate the longevity and the kind of the aspect of that. It's like a first time ever kind of thing, and the acoustic vibe was great. I can't remember what covers did you guys end up doing, because they do that round where like it's like kind of like name that tune. Do you remember what songs you did?
Yeah, yeah. We did Monster Mash, the Addams Family theme, I'm 18, Evil Woman, and there was one more. Maybe it was Pet Cemetery or something.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe. I can't remember what the.
Yeah.
I think we did 4 or 5 for the for the trivia. Yeah, that was fun too. Because we don't even have acoustic guitars. The guys in the band, they have all electric. And
Yeah.
but Brad works at Capital Guitar, so it was easy for us to go and borrow some acoustic guitars. They were gracious enough to let us take the guitars off the rack and go down and practice in the basement there. So we worked on the set down in the basement at Capitol for a few weeks before the show, and then yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we did it Impaler-ish. We did set up some props and got dressed up, and
Oh, that was great.
kind of did it our way, rather than just standing there in our jeans and
No, it was perfect. It was cool.
that's kind of how we have to do things. I guess it was precedent that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about the record then. So, like, after that event, did you go record the new album, or was the new album already being worked on and you finished it during quarantine, or did it literally start like after everything kind of shut down?
Yeah, it kind of started after everything shut down. Um, we took after we did that, everything was so new with the COVID and the shutdown, we kind of shied away from practicing for a while and tried to
Yeah,
social distance and everything. And when we got back together was later, late May or early June. I can't remember. It was somewhere around there. And we just decided, excuse me, that we were going to write a new album over the summer, and that we would record whatever we wrote in September, and that was kind of the time frame that we set up for ourselves so that we would actually accomplish it,
yeah,
with everything that was going on. And we weren't able to play live shows, and it's like, let's use this time and be productive and have something to show for it. And that's what we did. And it worked out really well, I think.
yeah. I was really surprised when you announced that it was coming out, because I don't know that I'd anticipated anything happening. You
Well,
know,
we had the 7-inch with "If Death Were a Horse" on it, and that was intended to be, the first track off of the new album. So that was in the works. And then Court had a song that he'd written for the Lost Impaler album, the Circus of Horrors, that will never see the light of day. But he had this great song called "So Much Blood," and he wasn't really satisfied with the way it had been, you know. Recorded in the other sessions, and so it was like, Court, that's a great song, let's do it, with this lineup, and let's write it, make it, sound the way that you envisioned it, and
yeah,
so we did that. But Court and I were the only ones that played on the earlier version of that, because so then we had Aaron and Brad and Andy, and so we just,
yeah.
we knocked that one out, and then just kept rolling from there. We just kept writing songs, and then I've got a good friend, goes way back. We go way back, John Eller, from the
Oh,
Paradox days,
oh yeah,
and he and I are constantly going back and forth on Messenger and stuff, and
yeah. I
sending.
love John Eller.
He loves Universal monster movies. He's a great musician, great guy, and
Yeah,
I've always admired him ever since Paradox and beyond. And so when uh, we were always going back and forth about monster movie, throwing trivia or sending pictures or new merchandise that comes out, we were always keeping each other in touch with that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Um, and so I just thought that, he was doing the piano thing during COVID, and I just got the idea, like, John, could you like come up with some spooky piano music for the intro for the album?
yeah.
And I said, just make it spooky, and that's what he came up with, and I thought it really turned out great. I had the idea that we would put the ghostly sounds over the top of the piano music and stuff, and it just worked out really great.
And was that another first for Impaler in terms of like having a piano on a record, or had you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess on the Worms, Tom Croxton, our drummer at the time, he played the little piano part that's in the background of the Worms
Okay.
intro that we had on it won't, or which album was that on? It Won't Die, or I can't remember which album that was on. But anyway, the Worms, and but John is really much more accomplished as far as piano playing goes. And Tom
Yeah.
just, yeah, Tom just dinked out this cool little piano melody that he had, and we laid the poem of the Worms over the top of it. So both worked out really well. I like both of those intros a lot. So,
Yeah.
but it's
No,
nice to have a brand new one.
it surprised me when I put it in at first. I kind of forgot. I was like, is this really the Impaler record? Like, it kind of threw me off. And then I really love how it all just kind of came in. So is there kind of a, like a, I don't want to call it a concept album, but is like with the title and a lot of the titles of the songs and kind of the overall vibe, like you said, like kind of monster music. what's kind of the theme, or what do you feel is like the concept of the record?
I don't think there really was a concept that was preconceived about it. We were just kind of just writing, separate songs as separate entities, and it just happens that a lot of our songs are about those topics,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
yeah, so spooky stuff and Halloween and ghosts and ghouls, but so yeah, but I can see where someone would think it as a concept album because it's got the title, and then if death were a horse, and the great hereafter, and but then there's other stuff like Thermonuclear Man,
Yeah.
and Krampus has returned, that really don't fall in under the life after death kind of scenario.
I guess it's just kind of like a continuation of the overall concept of Impaler, because obviously it's it's taken on a life of its own. Would you say? I mean, it's not like when I talk to you, like even talking to you now, you're a different person than you are when you're in Impaler. You know what I mean? Like you're like such a chill dude. You're a nurse, right? You're like a big teddy bear nurse guy.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Are you still you were doing like physical rehabilitation stuff, or what was your gig?
well, I was, but they closed Bethesda down, so I'm doing patient transport at the U of M now, over at the
Oh,
East Bank. Yeah,
yeah,
we kind of had to scramble and get different jobs, and there were different criteria for. I had such a unique job at Bethesda. It was unique to the whole medical community, really, in a way.
yeah.
So when I had to apply for a new job, they were telling me, you have to have a bachelor's degree for this, and I was like, I've been doing it for 30 years without a bachelor's degree. What?
Yeah.
But, I got experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I really do enjoy doing the patient transport because I still have that patient contact, which is the important thing to me. That's the thing that I like the best about
Yeah.
the healthcare. Um, so it's worked out really well. I really put on the miles every day too. It's like I'm between 18 and 20,000 steps a day according to my phone. So it's good exercise, and I get to mingle with the patients and running
Yeah.
around the hospital. So, and the U of M is a crazy place. I mean, uh, we're based out of the Mayo building, which is attached to the hospital, and there's just all kinds of laboratories and scientists that are over there, like constantly, working on new things, and
Yeah.
so it's very cool. A lot of stuff goes on there at the U.
So was there a little gap in time in between jobs, or were you like assigned right away?
No, it was pretty smooth. I had a redeployment job in between where I was over at the West Bank, and I was just screening people that were coming
Yeah.
through the door, making sure that they, didn't have COVID or didn't have any symptoms, and made sure they had a mask on and stuff like that. And that was fun too, a little change of pace, through the summer and the fall, and then end of November, I went over to the U of M to the East Bank. So yeah, so that's where I am.
Well, this might be a personal question, but like being that you play a cannibal on stage, when you're moving some of these bodies around, do you ever kind of, drool a little bit? Do you ever get a little hungry? Nobody watches this. You can admit
No, no,
it.
it's truly all just my. I I must be a pretty good actor because if people
Nobody's suspect.
if people yeah if people think that I'm really that way, that I guess I was doing a pretty good job on stage. But oh, that's all just Night of Living Dead and showbiz.
Well, that's what I mean. As long as I've known you, especially once found you told me a little bit about what you do. I just think it's really amazing. There's that video that didn't PBS make a video about your day job and then your other life.
Yeah,
That must come up a lot between either people recognizing you, or do people ever recognize you as the guy from Impaler?
yeah, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
But
and they're not scared.
no, generally not. No, sometimes like if I generally don't go around and announce that I play in a band. I don't think anybody that I work with at the U of M knows that I do at this point. But um, if it comes up, if a patient, or somebody recognizes me or brings up Impaler, or I show them a picture of what I look like, like the cover for Great Hereafter with the bloody hatchet and stuff, and they like do a double take, like
Wow.
that's you, you know. So it's pretty fun because that's fun. Just shock people a little bit out of their out of their preconceived notions of what people are like, or what
Yeah.
you know. Uh, a doctor can surely go and rock out after work, or a librarian or somebody like that, and
Did you hear this interview with David Lee Roth and Joe Rogan? And he talks about how, like, at some point in his career, it might have been like 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, David Lee Roth like basically stopped performing, and he actually trained to be an EMT. And then he would roll with all the ambulance, and he became like a legit EMT with in New York City and whatnot. And he said during all this time, it may have been like 4 years or 5 years that he did it.
hmm
And he said he only got recognized like once during all this time, like,
yeah,
uh,
you know,
uh,
I knew that he had become an EMT. I hadn't heard that particular interview, but I read somewhere that he had become an EMT. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, it's good. It's like a 3 hour interview. I mean, he
Yeah,
goes. I mean, you know how David Lee Roth talks. I mean, he just
sure.
goes in all directions.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'll have to check
he's
it out.
Yeah. But I also remember because around that time that you guys played at History Center, I think it was like right after Kiss was here. Did you go to that last Kiss show in town
Yeah, I
with
was
David
there.
Lee Roth? Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
great.
So that might have been that was my last like big show.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
and I remember I remember sitting at the show and thinking about, oh, I just kind of heard about this thing that might be around. And I'm just like, I was thinking, like, how do we know if anybody here even might have it, or whatever? And I wasn't like that worried about it, but it was kind of the first time it even dawned on me. I mean, how have you been hanging out? I mean, aside from working, like, how have you been dealing with all of this with family? And you guys stay between your family and your band? You kind of stay in your own little group or your own pod?
Yeah, we kind of have our little bubble.
Yeah.
Until I got vaccinated twice, I didn't want to spend a lot of time over at my parents' house
Yeah.
as things escalated, because they're both in their mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So that was hard. It's been hard not to be able to go see them and see them
Yeah.
at Christmas and stuff, just talking on the phone and things. It's not quite the same as, being in the room with them and seeing them and giving them a hug. But yeah, I mean, just taking it in stride. I work
Yeah.
in healthcare, so I take it seriously.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a conspiracy or anything like that, any of
No.
that bullshit. So yeah, I just take it in stride. I wear my mask and I social distance, and I just.
Are you working with COVID patients at all at the U of M?
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
hmm yeah. So we wear the proper PPE, and when we're you know working with those patients, and that's just really about all you can do, until
Yeah.
we get some kind of herd immunity, or 85% of the people are vaccinated or whatever they say. But, and it's always a day by day thing. It seems like things change every 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
I just kind of go with the flow and kind of take it in stride and can do what I can. A
Yeah.
lot of interests that keep me busy, and the band, dealing with the band, and definitely working on and putting out a new CD has been time consuming,
Yeah.
getting that all set up and everything. Uh, so those are the things that have been helping me get through the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah. Do you uh are you like working on like trying to do shows in this year at all, or is this just not really an option probably?
Well, once it becomes, uh, once they give a green light for it, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
all for it. Uh, I've heard rumblings that maybe in the fall of 2021 that shows might be able to commence. I don't know. I know there are some going on here and there places, but
Yeah.
we're not participating in those. We're
Right.
gonna wait until.
Maybe there's a good chance then that we can do Krampus again this year.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
The
Yeah,
return of Krampus.
and Halloween too. It'd be nice to do Halloween. We moved into a new house, and
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Where are you living now?
we're still in Egan. We're just about 2 miles away from where we lived before. But uh, so the holidays were kind of weird because everything was packed up in boxes. I couldn't do Halloween to the extent that I usually do it, and then Christmas. We got here on the 15th of December in the new house, and we kind of put Christmas together as quickly as we could, to celebrate that holiday. But again, it was, not to the extent that we usually do things as far as like decorating and things like that. But that's not really what's important about it. But it's a part of the tradition.
Yeah. So how have people been reacting to the CD? I mean, were they kind of surprised like me that it even came out, or do you get what is a typical Impaler fan like? I mean, there's people all over the world. Like would you? I think because of the longevity, you still have a pretty there's like a following out there. It's just definitely kind of more of a obscure cult in a way.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to describe it. We're definitely a cult band.
Yeah.
You're a cult band, but yeah, that's a hard question. That's hard to put your finger on. I know that we have everybody from morticians, honestly, that are fans, to truck drivers, to younger kids, to people that have followed us since they were kids, who are now
Yeah.
adults. So it's a really wide variety.
Yeah, and are you doing everything yourself, or was that like a label that put out the record and like?
Well, we do things ourselves. What we have is, back in the day they used to call it a packaging deal. We have a distribution, packaging and distribution, P&D deals they used to call them. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's what we have with MVD. They put out our CDs and they distribute them. They've got amazing distribution, and that's really half the battle with putting out your albums, is to have them spread out and be in the stores, or be available in different places. And then they have a strong presence with all the downloading stations and those things like that. So um, they've got us hooked up quite well as far as iTunes, Amazon Prime, Spotify, all that stuff. And then they also distribute things. They distribute DVDs, movies, all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah. Um. That's so cool. You kind of been able to kind of like maintain what you've started with all the throughout all these years. It always amazes me. Um. And aside from shows, like what do you kind of see? How like much do you guys kind of plan everything? Like these videos kind of popped up. Was that like an extension of the making the album, or were these videos something newer than that? Than
well, they ended up being promo for the album, to help promote it. But the studio that we recorded at, 1459 Studios, they started this um, service where they're working with bands, and they're gonna do what they did with us, but they wanted to kind of break the ice, and have Impaler do. They offered us, to do a session with them,
Yeah.
and Will, who runs the studio, did a great job producing the CD, and so he was doing the sound for the live recording, the live video, and then Dave Rubin, who's been a great photography presence for us in the last couple of years. He did all of the photography for The Great Hereafter
Yeah.
and the Krampus cards and things like that. So he was a videographer. So so between those two, we knew that it would be done, really well and really high quality. And I think they did a great job. It turned out really good.
Yeah, it's cool. That reminds me of when I got my Krampus card this year. Like throughout the past year, like nothing's normal, and that was like one of the things that like kind of felt normal. Like I get a Krampus card every year from Impaler. Like, how cool is that? I love that, and it's on my fridge all month, and I just love all the little traditions that have kind of revolved around the band, and the couple years that I got to DJ at the Krampus party, and I just want those to come back so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime you go see Impaler, you know what? It's always super fun and weird and crazy, and it's yeah, I definitely miss just going out to shows in general. And I mean, you go to a lot of shows too. I mean, it's just I watch videos of like bands playing huge, enormous festivals, and it seems like something that is so far away from where we are now.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't want to say I'm discouraged, but I'm this has required a lot of patience, and trying to find ways to kind of enjoy my time other than what I used to do all the time, um, which was going to see live music.
Right.
But and a big part of that is to have to go back, and I have been going back, and I take care of my parents. I basically lost most of the work that I was doing, in terms of putting on shows and doing, working at the state fair and whatever. I've kind of just like buckled down to I'm like my parents' caretaker, and
Mhm.
and because of that, I'm in my childhood home,
Yeah.
uh, which is kind of surreal and weird, but it's allowed me to kind of dig through all my stuff. You might, our friend Kyle. I just sold him all my Star Wars stuff.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm
you
gonna
gave it a
sell.
good home.
Yeah, and I go to his house, and it's like a freaking museum over there. It's amazing. He's got the Han Solo frozen on the wall and all this stuff. It's like,
I've never seen
um,
it, but I've heard about it.
yeah. And it reminded me of the time you and I kind of first connected, because I happened to find these old photographs that my brother had of an Impaler show, and
Uh-huh.
I think I found you online, and we hooked up that way. But yeah, kind of digging through the past has just been a good way to kind of cherish some of these good times. What are some of your like? I mean, we could talk for hours about concerts you've been to. Like, what if we were in an elevator right now? I said, okay, what was the best concert or your favorite number one, or one of your biggest memories of like seeing live music? Because you're a '70s guy.
Totally.
You don't
Yeah.
you don't have to tell me your age, but you were a teenager probably in the '70s, or
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I
yeah.
was. Yeah. I'm 59. I'll be 60 this year. So I'm not, I don't hide it or try and gloss that
I thought
over.
you were a living zombie, actually.
Yeah, how can you really put an age on that? Well, I just posted the other day about because it was the anniversary of when I first saw Kiss the first time, and
Yeah.
that was you know, the earth moved, when I saw that show. It was just amazing, and it was and I'd already loved Kiss. I already had their albums, and
So what year are we talking about? What tour was that?
it was the Alive tour. And it was February 6th, 1976. And that was the first time I saw him. And then I actually saw him 1 year later for the Destroyer Rock and Roll Over tour at the Met Center, and it was on the same February 6th, same day, but a year later. But yeah, so it was
So
a
what
lot.
grade would you have been in?
Oh man, let's see. I had my paper out. I must have been in ninth grade,
Yeah, yeah.
eighth or ninth grade, somewhere in there. Yeah. Uh yeah.
And
So
what would you say was like your first experience with Kiss? Like, how did they come into your consciousness?
on U100 here,
Yeah.
yeah, Rock and Roll All Night, the studio version came on, and I immediately jumped to my feet and started playing like air guitar in my room, and I was
It's
like,
just
this is a wonderful song. Who does this? And then at the end of the song, it went into a commercial. The next time I heard the song, it segged into another song, and I couldn't. And then I'd try to call you 100, but you could never get through because they were doing
Boogie check.
Yeah, boogie check or something. I could never get through to ask who does that song. It was one of my favorite station, WDGY and U100, and so I kind of never found out who played that song or who did it, but I was buying Cream and Circus magazines with Alice Cooper in it because Alice is my guy, and I would see these ads, and it was for Dress to Kill, and I had no idea that these guys wore makeup like that because I hadn't seen an article on them yet or anything. Because they were dressed in street clothes, and one guy, Gene Simmons, has clogs on and stuff. So I thought, oh, this is an artsy kind of cover, maybe. I don't know. And the Demons of Rock, Kiss. And so I found it used at Pasha Poi. I brought the damn thing home and put it on the stereo, and I loved every song. Once Room Service,
Yeah.
every single song, I was like, oh my God, this is great. Oh my God, this is great. I was just so stoked. Then the very last song, I was going, holy shit, this is that song.
Yeah.
That song. It was just the icing on the cake. It was just like, that's how I discovered who did the song, is when Rock and Roll All Night kicked in the first time I listened to Dress to Kill. So, oh yeah. So I went out and bought the debut album, I think the next day or something.
Yeah.
And I had a paper route, so I had to save up my money, for, I spent all my money on concert tickets and albums and stuff. So I got the debut album, and I loved that. And then I was going up to Pasha Poi to buy Hotter Than Hell. I walked through the front door, and they have their new release rack right in front of the door there. They were like right by McAllister College, right off of Snelling and Grand.
What was the place called? Pasha Poi?
Pasha Poi. Pasha Poi.
Okay.
I think John Bream worked there when he was a young McAllister student. Yeah. So I didn't know that at the time, but I think I found that out. So as I walked in the door, there was Kiss Alive in the new release rack. And so I completely forgot about getting Hotter Than Hell, and I snagged that and brought it home and opened that up and that booklet and put it on, and it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, that's how I fell in love with Kiss, And then when they were coming in concert, it was like, there's no doubt I'm going to this show, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and to see him in the theater section too was amazing, because you're probably too young to know about the Civic Center had a theater, which is where
I was just talking about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who opened for that tour? Do you remember?
Point Blank.
Okay.
Point Blank. And yeah, I was underwhelmed with them at the time. I was just waiting for Kiss to get out there, and
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that was quite an experience. That was definitely one of the greatest shows I ever saw,
So was that theater where Roy Wilkins is now?
No, the theater is kind of where the Ordway is now.
Okay.
In kind of general area.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it held 15,000 or 1,500, excuse me, 1,500 people, or if that. It was kind of like the State Theater over in Minneapolis.
So did you basically follow them? I mean, you still do. Did you go to every tour? I mean, did you see like the really big ones, like the Destroyer tour and the Love Gun and?
Yeah, I saw.
Wow. So you kind of got to see the production get bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah, I missed some. I kind of after Animalize, I kind of was like, I didn't go to
the non-makeup shows,
Asylum, or and then I was working for Hot Rockin' 104, and I got to go to Hot in the Shade tour with who was it? I think it was Slaughter and Faster Pussycat were the support for that one. And they played a lot of old songs like I Want You and stuff, and it was like, when even when they didn't have the makeup on, when they'd play those old songs, that was always great.
Yeah.
With Black Diamond and then of course when they did the reunion shows, I saw like 4 of those, I think, all together. Yeah.
What other like 70s shows do you remember? I'm sort of obsessed with like 70s and 80s hard rock that wasn't popular. Like kind of like the second and third tier bands, you know.
Uh-huh.
Like I discovered this band called Rail. I was out in Seattle visiting my brother this year, and I found this record by a band called Rail. And the guy at the counter was like, "Oh yeah, they were supposed to be a big thing, but you know they never really got like those kind of." Another one that was on the I listened to a Kiss podcast, and they had a guy from Dare Force, who I'm sure you know. The guy from Dare Force was on there. It's kind of like an example of like a second or third tier regional band that kind of didn't necessarily break, but kind of built a following. Like, what kind of shows and what kind of bands like that from like the Twin Cities do you remember?
Well, I used to go see a lot of the Twin Cities bands. I mean, Kane was one that was really impressive to me because they put out 2 albums, and that was
Yeah.
something that I had hoped to do one day, was to put out albums, because a lot of the other bands, they hadn't put out anything. They were doing covers and some of their own songs, but Kane released 2 albums and they were great. And I
Was
saw
Kane
them.
related to Chainsaw Kane at all?
Not at all. Nope.
Okay.
Completely
Okay.
different. Jigs Lee, who was later in, what was the name of his band? I forget what his band's. I used to go see that band too,
Yeah.
but he was a great singer. But they warmed up Kansas at the state fair, and it was amazing. They did a really good show. It
Nice.
was, yeah. Uh, so Kane was really cool. And then I would go see Dare Force and Paradox and Obsession, and there were other bands that were mixed in there too, but those were kind of like the main ones that I would go to see,
Did you
on
ever
the
see
regular.
Chameleon?
Yeah, I saw Chameleon. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
him at the Pain Reliever. Yeah, yeah, I
I
saw.
was I was chatting with like Martin Zeller the other day on Twitter, and he was talking about Chameleon, and like I started watching all these videos, and like their drummer had this like rotating drum set thing, you
Yeah,
know. He's
way
kind of like
before
one of the
Tommy
first.
Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
uh,
you saw a Chameleon?
yeah, I saw Chameleon, Rags, uh, you know, early Replacements. I actually saw the Replacements at the Longhorn, and seriously, we went down there to play pool like on a Monday night or something. We would go down to that arcade on 7th Street back when it was the old, E Block. Block E was the with the
Yeah.
shinders on each corner and stuff, and there was an arcade, and so we went into the Longhorn to play pool, and it said the Replacements on the marquee, and I thought it was the band that was supposed to play, canceled, and they had a band that was going to play that was a replacement. That's what went through my head, I swear to God. And so we went in there. Tommy Stinson looked like he was like in 6th grade, and I think he was at the time. And I was like, "What the heck is this?" And it was like,
Yeah.
I I was like, I didn't know what to make of it at first, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was the Replacements, and I saw them pretty early on. Um, Geez, who else? I just like I'd love to go see live music, And then when you're young and single and you don't have any, you have a disposable income to a certain extent, uh, people would go out every night of the week, Even
Yeah.
like you'd play on Tuesday night, and like Ryan's Corner would have 2 for Tuesday, drink specials, and Thursday or Wednesday they'd have 25-cent beers. And so, and people want to play video games, they had to go to bars and stuff to play them. And they couldn't sit at home on their couch and do that. And there was really no cable TV to speak of back then. It
Yeah.
was in its infancy stage. So people went out, and that saw bands, and it was fun.
Yeah. And mix. Yeah, it's such a different time. Like you think about we the way we kind of isolate ourselves with the connections to the rest of the world, whereas before, like you had to make the effort to connect to the rest of the world. Now it's like you don't even have to leave your bed. You can like
Yeah, that's so true. Well, and then we weren't even of age, and we would like get into bars, and we didn't even want to order a drink because we didn't want to, cast any suspicion on
yeah.
ourselves. Like we'd get a Coke or something, and just to see the bands. So we'd see like, oh, Brainiac, the Employers, the Blondes. Well, the Blondes were a little later on, but Brainiac was this band. They were a 3-piece band. They were like Rush. I swear to God, they were just like these elite musicians.
There was a
And
Minnesota band called Brainiac.
Brainiac, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They they went through Marsh Productions at the time, and I think what I heard, they backed up somebody. I'm saying Linda Ronstadt because I can't remember who it was. They backed up maybe Helen Reddy or something, but they ended up backing up a major artist like on Midnight Special or something. They were the backing band that was brought in to
Wow.
play with some solo artist, you know. But they were incredible. I sat in the libation station, watched them play, and I was like, holy crap. You know, did they go to college to learn how to play like that or what? You know,
Yeah.
because they were really good. Um, yeah, just there was just so many bands, and it was just great. You know, you'd go out and you could hear covers, and then like the bands that kind of pursued their own music was really cool to me. And like Dare Force had great originals, and then Paradox had great originals, and Obsession started playing originals, and they all had things to offer, you know, that I liked. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to do, but I wanted to flip flop it around where they were doing, you know, like probably 80% covers and 20% of their own. I wanted to flip it around and do like 80% of our own, and maybe a couple of covers, you know,
Yeah.
of bands that we loved.
So when was Impaler's like first show? Like what did you open for one of these bands or?
No, so that being said, that's what I wanted to do. We we just concentrated on writing our own songs when we got together, and once we had like 6 songs, we went into a little studio and we recorded a demo tape. And then I took the demo tape, and instead of going, I knew that it would be a dead end to go to the agencies that were working with the cover bands, because they didn't care about your own songs. They cared about how well you could play uh, AC/DC or Led Zeppelin. So I went to the punk clubs, and I went over to Goofy's Upper Deck, and I met Fred and Drew Miller from Boiled and Lead.
Oh yeah.
He was running sound and helping Fred book the two of those booking bands. All the punk bands, like the national punk bands, were playing at Upper Deck, Black Flag, Circle
Mhm.
Jerks, Dead Kennedy, everybody that Husker
Okay.
played there a lot.
Yeah.
You know, Loud Fast Rules, and so yeah, so we brought our demo tape to them, and then they said, you know, Fred says, you know, we've been looking for a metal band like you guys that are like influenced by Motorhead and Venom and that kind of stuff. You know, he said we've been looking for a band like you guys, and so he booked us like right away. It was really, you know,
So
it
what
was
year would
cool.
that have been?
Uh, 1983, summer of 1983. So that's when the deck closed down at the end of that summer. They kind of were unceremoniously got the plug pulled on them. But we did 3 shows. They booked us each month, June, July, and August, and in that year when we got started. And that's those were our first shows. And
Yeah.
then Bob and Grant, they came down to our shows, and I'd known Grant from church camp when we were in grade school.
What?
Yeah, we went to this camp together, Camp
You went
Onania.
to church camp with Grant Hart?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. That's how we met. And
That's amazing.
yeah, we both had a love for Marx Brothers movies, and so him and I started riffing on like lines from Marx Brothers movies, you know,
Yeah.
doing Groucho quotes and stuff, and so we became friends. And like his mom worked just blocks away from my house, so a couple times he went to work with his mom, and I rode my bike up and met him, and then he came down to our neighborhood and ate lunch and hung out in the neighborhood with me. And then I reconnected with him as a teenager going to Northern Lights. He was coming out the door and I was going in, and I was like, Grant, and he's Bill, you know, and he goes, I got this band and we're practicing down in the basement. Come down. And I went down, and he played me a cassette of some of their rehearsals.
Yeah.
Uh, and so anyway,
Was
so
it Huskers or was that
yeah,
before
yeah, it was
Huskers?
Husker Du. They were
Yeah.
practicing down there.
Yeah.
They were rehearsing in the basement, and so they came to the Impaler show, and then they said, you know, we're going to do our metal circus kickoff at First Avenue. Do you guys want to play with us? And we're like, yeah, yeah, for sure. So
Wow.
it's like our fourth or fifth show was in the main room with Husker Du. So that was, you know, pretty heady stuff for.
So Impaler started before Husker Du did?
No, Husker Du was around. I
They
was
were.
in a band called Blind Luck probably back then. No, when I ran into Grant, he was in Husker Du. I was still in one of my one of my pre-Impaler bands.
What was that called?
Well, it was Blind Luck, and then it became Fear No Evil. So
Okay.
it was probably somewhere in there, And then I moved to Texas for a little while. Played in a band called Megaton down there, and then I got homesick and came back, and then that's when Impaler was formed after came back from Texas.
Did any of those bands record anything?
Just kind of boombox recordings,
Yeah,
those kind of
yeah.
things.
It's
Yeah,
tough to listen to.
I think on excuse me, I think on well, I'm pretty sure on Chronicles of Horror, that 3 disc compilation that came out of China.
Oh
I
yeah.
I think there's a track of Fear No Evil playing like Kill the King or something or Deuce or one of those at uh, at a live show, that we were doing.
Should bring. Okay.
Yeah, there are a bunch of songs on there that we never recorded properly that we just maybe played live a couple times or
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but yeah, so uh, yeah, that was those experiences coming up and getting started. And so then we were so different because we were a metal band playing our own thing and we had this stage show, Spit and Blood and all this stuff. And so we really stuck out like a sore thumb. So a lot of people came and were curious about us and uh, played a lot of shows back then, just starting out. We were very fortunate, that we broke through that way instead of having to slug it out in the cover band territory.
Yeah. No, that's actually really smart because it's kind of like what Metallica did. Everything else was kind of glammy,
Hmm.
hard rock, and maybe that's what everything was here. And the only way for you to really break out was to kind of go a more of a hardcore punk route.
DIY. That's what I
Yeah.
admired about them. It was like these punk bands were promoting their own shows and making their own records and just just going for it, by their own power instead of waiting for somebody to come along and say, "Hey, you're good. We're gonna do something with you're gonna go far, kid." That kind of shit. It's
So,
just like,
but yeah, but in the '80s, do you feel like Impaler got a little glammy too?
well, we always had a little bit of that, just in the sense it was kind of ugly glam, like
Like a
Alice Cooper.
dolls?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we never tried to be pretty. It was more of a horror angle
Yeah.
in the sense that our makeup was more like a horror movie than a glam band.
But what was your feeling like when all that was going on? I was pretty young, but even at a young age, like I mean, I'm talking about like 10 or 11, 12 years old. I understood that metal itself was kind of getting really saccharine, and like the hair and the all the things that were the reason. I watched the Metal Years, that movie Western Civilization. I
Yeah.
watched that the other night, and I hadn't seen it in a long time, and it just kind of reminded me of the time period where, like I said, even at a young age, I realized it was getting kind of ridiculous. It was just getting really silly. Um, Being kind of an underground band at that time, and coming from more of like a horror back, like what was your vibe? What was your feeling about those kinds of bands and that kind of sound? And every band would have a ballad, and
Yeah.
um,
Well, it became formula,
yeah,
because and I blame the record companies for that because it's like they're the ones that set the standards for those kinds of things and tell the bands that this is what they expect from them and that's what they want. And then it just becomes like cookie cutter, like a factory.
yeah.
And 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 then it just becomes oversaturated and then it's not cool anymore. It's just becomes blah. But
But as a band, like as a band like Impaler, like what were you thinking of, like did it affect the way you kind of thought about the scene in general, or where metal was going, or did you find yourself trying to work against it in the way like maybe the thrash bands were at the time?
people used to throw the word poser around all the time.
Oh yeah.
That the band was if a band was glam or not metal enough, they were posers, you know.
Yeah.
But no, for us, we've always just kind of like been in our own little bubble, in
Yeah.
a way. And it's like we kind of surround ourselves with all these things that we truly like, old 70s glam, and Cooper and Kiss and horror movies and comic books and just kind of insulated ourselves from those kind of things. I didn't really think a lot about it except for like when it got sad, I was like, oh, that's sad. I'm really done with these bands,
Yeah.
You have the groundbreaking ones that are great, that like early Twisted Sister and Motley Crue, and Rat, who I think was really,
Yeah, Rat were cool.
yeah, really cool. I
I've been
really
getting
like
into
that a lot.
I've been going back to Skid Row a lot lately. I think they're one of the bands that like were primed for that era and that time period that were more than just kind of another hair metal band. Like kind of
Yeah,
the same way GNR are, I guess.
yeah, I would agree with that. Slave to the Grind is a heavy album. I love that album. I
Hmm.
think it's excellent, So, yeah. So, I mean, it's like anything. There's good and bad in it, and you just have to shift through it and find what it is that you like, and yeah, and go with it. I mean, we just sounded like we sound. I mean, just uh, you take 4 or 5 people and you take everybody's personal influences and you find your common ground and you just mix that all together with, your abilities or your vision, and that's how it's
Yeah.
like it's like a fingerprint, it's like it becomes unique to you. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's how we have always addressed it. We've never really tried to sound like anybody or tried to sound like what was uh, hot in the market at the time or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
guess if you were ever worried about it, you probably wouldn't be around anymore.
that's probably right. I have a motto: too stupid to quit.
That's great. I watched a movie called Murder in the Front Row. Have you seen that one?
Oh no, I've heard about it.
Yeah,
Zach
it's really,
told me a lot. Zach went to go see it at like the Alamo. They
yeah.
had a screening of it. But I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my to-do list. Yeah.
There's another one I want to watch. The guy from Wasp, um, Chris
Oh, Chris
Holmes.
Holmes.
Yeah.
He was my favorite Wasp guy. Was Chris Holmes. I got to
Oh,
see.
he's crazy. I mean, he's
He's
in
my
that
favorite.
Western Civilization movie. It's like classic scene, you know.
Oh
He's.
yeah, he was so hammered.
Have you watched his documentary?
I watched the preview of it.
Okay, yeah.
That's on my to-do list too. I want to see that. Yeah, yeah. Another good one that you should watch, and it's definitely on Amazon, is what is it called? Out of the Basement. It's Rat Skates, the drummer from Overkill.
Oh yeah, I watched it. Yeah,
Did you? Isn't that
yeah,
cool? I mean, I really liked their early, and I remember when their first demo came out, it was like they uh they were doing the horror thing too, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, look at this, they're kind of doing this thing. And then Nasty Savage down in Florida was kind of doing a similar, and I was thinking, wow, this will probably be the next big movement is this horror thing, but it wasn't, they all ended up going jeans and t-shirts and stuff, but uh, at that
Yeah,
time it was really exciting, and I really love seeing that old footage and hear him talk about how he built those things because that's what we did too, we
yeah.
we were stealing milk crates too, to make drum risers and stuff. So so I felt a connection with him, hearing his story and what, knowing what we'd gone through too, in a different state, 1,000 miles away, we were doing the same thing.
Well, and I didn't know much about Overkill at all. I mean, I've always known who they were. I actually went and saw them last time they were here. Who did they play at the Varsity with? Did you go to that?
I did
Um,
not. Mm-mm.
I can't remember. It was a cool bill. It was like them and maybe Death Angel. I can't
Okay.
remember. Anyway, I didn't know much about the band, and I didn't know that the drummer was kind of the main thrust behind the band. I always associated Overkill with the singer. What's his name? Biff?
Bobby the Blitz.
Bobby Blitz. Blitz,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Biff
Um,
is in Saxon, but yeah, and then this guy he left after like their second album or something.
yeah, that's what
Right.
was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
really love those kind of documentaries because they like the more homemade something is and not slick production. I think the more, just kind of the more realistic it feels, you know. And
Grassroots.
there's so many out there. Actually, that brings to mind whatever happened to the Impaler documentaries. Any?
I don't know. You're the second one to ask me this week about that. I
Yeah.
really don't know, you know. I reach out to Paul every once in a while and he said, I think about it every day.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I just keep moving on, you know.
Yeah.
Comes out. I
It's so
assume it's
hard
gonna
to.
come out. The guy put a lot of money and a lot of time of his own into it, you know, but I really don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah.
I can tell he came in and interviewed me too, so that's all I can say. That's all I know.
Yeah. I totally get it though. Like those kinds of projects are a labor of love, and if you don't, you know, if it's just kind of like. If it's not happening, you got to kind of do what you do to make a living, and then stuff
Yeah,
gets put to the side, and then you start other projects, and you know,
yeah.
you just assume someday it'll kind of come to some sort of fruition. But it's almost like he'll have to keep coming back and updating it, you know.
Or maybe he'll just put it out when I die, and then you know that'll be the end of the movie.
Well, I always thought that that would probably be like that's probably what would happen at the last Impaler show is like you would die and the band would eat you.
Yeah, yeah. That'd probably be a fitting ending, right? I'll be sure not to bathe for that.
You ever think there will be? Do you ever think there will be like a very intentional end to the band? You know what I mean? Like, do you think you'll one day you'll say, okay, I'm done? I mean, there's not like a ton of pressure to keep it going, but that makes it all the more worthwhile to just kind of do it as you can, right? Um,
Yeah, I really haven't thought about that much. I think probably somebody maybe becoming incapacitated where they can't do it anymore, and you know, I really like this lineup, and I really can't imagine changing again, you know. And
yeah,
I think if something happened to somebody, you know, God forbid, that would probably be the, you know, the catalyst to stop doing it. You know, I think I'll always be involved with it in some way. You know,
yeah,
it's just I'll be the gatekeeper maybe till then. You know, I'm the archivist, archivalist or whatever you
yeah.
say that. You know, so
Archivist.
yeah, so uh, it's hard to say. You know, who knows? You know, maybe one day somebody will wake up too and say, "I've had enough of this. I'm done." You know, and then
So it would have to come down to like who's is there three of you that are original?
no, just Court and I now. But
Okay.
like Brad has been in the band for so many years. You know, he left for a little bit and came back. Aaron Ryan, he was on Wake Up Screaming. So there's this connection of through the history, you know, of the band
Yeah.
that is intact right now, and it's really cool. And I think that we're firing on all cylinders. It would be great. I think once we get out and play, we'll probably be doing probably this entire album and starting to write music for another one too. You know,
Yeah.
because we're just really all on the same page and enjoying what we're doing and uh, so uh, that's probably our plan with the live show is to really showcase this album and
Uh, oh, I was gonna say you'll have I have to play drums on an Impaler album at some point, even if it's just like me on a floor tom or something. I want to
yeah,
make I want to make a cameo someday. That's my dream.
we'll make
Uh,
that happen.
well, when
Maybe
I saw John Eller on there, I'm like, hey, maybe I have a chance, you know?
sure, why not? Sure. I enjoy watching your little drumming videos you do. You're really good, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, like with all of this quarantine stuff, I've been playing drums forever. You know, basically since I was a kid, on and off. You know, but it been having the time now and being able to kind of keep myself on task in terms of like I watch a lot of videos and I actually go back to my old books I had when I was first learning and I'm just like working my way through these books and There's one book, the drummer Carmine Appice or
Sure.
Carmine Appice.
Hmm.
Um, he made a ton of really great books, so I've been following those, going through those, and yeah, it's something to keep busy and to like feel good about yourself with when you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Especially with music. So
Yeah.
thank you. So yeah, if you got any jazz tunes, if there's an Impaler jazz album, I'm your man. You've never done that.
Jazz interpretations of Impaler classic.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm all about it. No, that's so cool. But yeah, I think about you guys a lot and the things that there's so much imagination in it, and it's just so cool to see like you're still doing it and having your whole life you've had a real leveled expectation about it. That's really like refreshing. I know so many musicians that go up and down from being so discouraged or there's even a sense of like entitlement that a lot of musicians have because they're working so hard at it, and that builds up this expectation that it's such a weird kind of game.
Yeah.
You've just kept it really fun for yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, you have to, I think, and that's probably why we've done, have such longevity. You just have to know it's like a roller coaster, there's going to be downs, but when you go down, you're going to come back up again and you're going to have, positive experience. You just have to roll with it and that's how life is in general.
Yeah.
Any aspect of life is ups and downs, and it's just magnified more when you're in a band, and trying to keep 5, 7 people on the same, path, their same page. Um, but yeah, and I've been so fortunate to have just easygoing, great guys to work with, that are
Yeah.
just pleasure to deal with, so and make music with and be creative with. I mean, people laugh, but really, I think one of the biggest influences to me is Walt Disney because when I was young, just watching The Wonderful World at Disney every Sunday night in my PJs and just seeing all of the imagination and just the vision that guy had and how he put it forth and it, uh, is just inspiring,
That's
and
crazy.
and to go to the parks and stuff and just see all of the art. I mean, really, people say they're going to an amusement park, but you're really going to an art park. Everything around you is art, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So that's been very inspiring to me. I think that's where I get um, the creativity part of things, stems from that, and obviously inspired by other things as life went along, but very early influences, definitely Walt Disney.
I think you should do a Impaler children's album.
I think we should.
That
Aren't
would
they,
be amazing.
aren't they all?
Yeah.
Made by children, made by children for children. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys, I love it. It's so nice to be able to catch up with you, and
Great to
yeah,
talk.
congrats on the new record, and just to be able to check in and see where you're at, and yeah, cool, man. Well, thanks, Bill. I'm glad we figured it all out.
Yeah, we got it figured out. Now I just have to figure out how to turn it off when we're done.
The big red hang up button there.
There,
All
okay.
right, man. Well, take it easy. Good to
Hey.
catch up. We'll be in touch.
Rock on.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Thanks, Danny.